love to see where you're coming in from. We know many of you are coming in from all over the world. We're so thrilled that you choose to join us live for these beautiful dialogues with healing leaders. And we have with us a beautiful healing leader from the Evolutionary Leader Circle, which is how I met him, a really wonderful, wonderful human. Okay, we have Quebec, Canada. I just have to shout out a little bit. West Virginia, Eugene. A lot of US people today. That's really cool. Belgium. Okay. San Diego, one of my favorite places. Hello, all fellow San Diegans. Los Angeles. Yes. East Coast, West Coast, and across the world. Thank you again for joining us today. We have with us a fellow Californian, Adam Hall. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Adam if this is your first time meeting him. Adam Hall is a teacher, author, speaker, futurist, social architect, impact investor, advisor, and conservationist. Yes, he really does wear all those hats. With nearly 4 decades as a CEO and entrepreneur, he founded 3 successful real estate development companies, including Renaissance Capital, where he raised just a paltry sum of $1.5 billion in capital investment. You may wonder what he's doing here. We are going to find out. There are methods to all of these flows. In addition to his success in business, Adam has spent the last 2 decades, of course, having been successful in business as an impact investor dedicated to the quadruple bottom line: people, planet, profits with purpose. And he founded an organization called the Earthkeeper Alliance. He has books, you should check them out: Divine Genius, The Unlearning Curve, a best-selling book called The Earthkeeper, Undeveloping the Future, and the little books on abundance and miracles. He is an active speaker, as well as a founder and CEO of a really cool company called Soul Guide, which we might hear about today. He assists in many ways, and one of the ways is to guest with us on the webinar here today. Adam, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, Shamani, thank you. I'm honored and delighted to be with the Chi community and everyone else today around this beautiful planet we share. And I look forward to our conversation and exploration and having a little fun together. So let's do it.
Thank you. You know, I remember the first time that I met you in Santa Barbara. I think we met virtually first at an evolutionary leaders gathering, and happened to be in the area. And I just remember sitting with you and being house struck by, you representing a number of people in the entrepreneurship space that are really dedicated to social impact and aligning the flows of capital with social impact. It's obviously an area that you're very passionate about, you're very creative, and you've done your own deep work. It's very clear, you've done your own deep work, your own soul searching. And so for those who really haven't met you before, I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about what's brought you to the journey that you're currently on, because it sounds like you've had a very long and prolific history as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, and I'm certainly still doing that deep work. As we know, we stay in this journey throughout our lifetimes, and it fascinating. The arc of my own evolution, Shamani, and everyone really began as an entrepreneur in real estate, as she shared, and I affectionately refer to this as my 1.0 version of myself, because that version was the earth conqueror, that version that lived in the dog eat dog world, get out of my effing way kind of thing. And, and it ultimately it became a very narcissistic world for me and a very unhealthy environment through addictions and through just obsession with succeeding in ways that I thought were the way to approach my life. So ultimately, Spirit, my soul called, and that was 21 years ago, almost to the day, everyone. And
Wow,
that began this great journey of stepping into what I affectionately call the 2.0 version of ourselves. Some of you may relate to this, and that moment really occurred when I kind of left this strangulating left brain, strong, dominant, masculine drive to conquer, and really entered into a more right brain, creative brain, and looking at more in the imaginative realm, and wanting to kind of understand, as we say in shamanism, how can we dream our world into being? How can we have clarity of our intention? And I began, traveling a bit of the globe and looking at different Eastern and Western, all these kind of different modalities, but ultimately entered into a period of time where I did a lot of vision questing on the Native American lands, the Hopi and the Navajo Nation, the first people, and really begin to learn from the shaman there and sweat with them and really begin to take that next step, which emerged into a creative place of now what I refer to as my 3.0 version. At least I'm stepping into that, which is teaching, sharing, storytelling, being an entrepreneurial in an energetic way, spiritually, and really to honor my own journey, but also to honor all of our journeys, to do the work that we're all here to do. So I'm blessed to be with all of you, and gives you a little snippet of the 1.0 to the 3.0. Thanks
Oh,
for
beautiful. Okay, now I have to ask because you left it wide open. Version 3.0, spiritual entrepreneurship. What does spiritual entrepreneurship mean to you? And has your experience in studying shamanism influenced what you think spiritual entrepreneurship is?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll share a little story around it. And I think that's kind of the best way to explore this, because I've been connecting a lot with my middle daughter, Ashley, who has two beautiful children, Jada and Alana. These are my youngest grandchildren. Believe it or not, folks, I have 3 daughters and 7 granddaughters, right? That's a 1 in 32,500 chance. But we were speaking yesterday a bit, doing a deep dive into, what it means to her to be a mother and all the things that are going on in the world and the inundation, primarily specific to health and wellness of her family. And she's been deeply concerned about what's happening in the medical system and the wellness system. And she's been doing deep dive. She's been really hacking how to bring greater health and wellness, holistic health and wellness to her family. And I'm sharing this because it's almost painful for me to say that 60% of our children, they say, are in some form of illness, whether it's obesity or whatever else it may be. And the upshot of why I'm sharing this a little bit is that, our physical health and our psycho-spiritual health, I think we'd all agree in general, is not that good.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not that good. So, my job in the world today, bringing an entrepreneurship focus into how can we create more accelerated states of healing? What can we offer, not in addition to our disciplines and our practices, but also what can we really offer that adds a great value to the world today? So my journey in that perspective, from the old lens of 1.0 into really more of a spiritual entrepreneurship, is how can we do that that's a sustainable way? And how can we do that is scalable? How can we do that where it connects with as many people as possible, so we're not just stuck in our own silos? So I've been really focused on how to do that in my work, in my shamanic work, in my writings, in my teachings, and also some of the work I'm doing in the area of technology and some other things. So I have a lot of exciting things happening. But it's fun to be an entrepreneur, and it's fun to bring that to the world now, where the world is so challenged yet so full of opportunities for all of us to play and do what we're here to do.
I mean, there are many that feel like capitalism is the problem, that just by its nature, it cannot be a healing force because of the nature of capitalism itself. And I'm curious how you see that. What would be your response to that?
Well, coming from the old model of capitalism, the answer is very clearly, I get it. And However, the new models are emerging. The conscious capitalism is emerging in a greater way. I'm working with other conscious capitalists around the globe to really help innovate within businesses. So I do work with leaders in businesses to help them evolve their own platform, or more importantly, their own perception of capitalism. And, like I went from the 1.0 to the 2.0 to the 3.0, leaving the earth conquering capitalist to focusing more on land conservation and how can I support the earth, to ultimately wanting to do my work and share my work as I do now on a global basis. And so capitalism has within it the capability to do what we must do. And for me, and my approach to capitalism today is not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's about reconfiguring and reimagining and retraining and regenerating our mindset around capital, and to focus not simply, on the bottom line of profit, but ultimately to focus on the top line as well, which is health of our people, wellness of how happy and joyful are they. We can look at other things that we put on top versus always focusing on the bottom. So hopefully that's a little bit of a touchstone on capitalism and what's possible here. But within the dynamic of that, we can unleash a force for good like we've never seen if we know the target and the direction we're taking, that we want to take to support greater holistic health and wellness in the world, as well as other things.
Yeah, I mean, to me, and I think a lot of people watching and listening probably would resonate with this and maybe feel similarly, right? We know money is energy. Ultimately, everything is energy, right? We know that. Money is no different. Money is just kind of an attribute, a thing that the human mind has created to provide a sense of value that's related to energy, supposedly energy expenditure. And so just like each of us sort of navigate how we spend our energy, it's the same kind of thing. We can be miserly with it. We can be generous with it. We can overgive to the point where we're depleted, or we can be in balance and harmony with it and choose to provide balance and harmony energetically to the world. And one of the ways is through the flow of funding, right? So this is really beautiful. And obviously, you mentioned one of the ways that you have found that harmony in your 2.0 version is really to explore what it means to be healing stewards of our earth. And I know that this is something that you're so deeply, deeply passionate about. And, I'm wondering, Adam, in those aha moments that you had where you thought, this unconscious capitalistic, driving machine way that I have been ingrained in for a long time is not working for me. It's not working for me, and it's not working for the world. And I want to be a force for good. Like, it really feels like you fell into a deeper sense of purpose, right? And it's something that everyone wishes to have. Not just I want to find my purpose, but I want to embody it. Some people may argue that being alive is being purposeful, like truly being alive, being embodied, being in our body, being present with others, is enough. Truly, it is, because our essence is really our purpose. And yet we have these passions, right, to help
Yeah.
realign, to harmonize things in our world. And for you, conservation was a huge calling point. So tell us a little bit about that. Was there a moment that kind of stood out for you where you rediscovered perhaps, or more deeply aligned with that purpose? And what have you learned through that process that you could share with others who were kind of wondering whether they may want to feel a little bit more alignment with that sense of purpose?
Well, absolutely. I think you nailed it, Shamani, when, it's one thing to be tracking your purpose, and it's another thing to be living it in passion. And, ultimately, my early exploration of purpose was interesting because it began a search that seemed endless. What is my purpose out in the world? And then I became a student of A Course in Miracles. which I practice to this day. And the Course in Miracles really helped to attune me to life beyond this endless search for purpose. And that attunement basically said the following, that purpose is the same for all of us. It is to just return to our memory of the indelible truth of who we are and our most authentic self, our truest self, our soulful self. This is our purpose, to be in the presence of that and to hold that and to embellish that and to share that into the world. But the thing that changed it all was when the passion began to flow in like a nice little breeze through the wind and said, that to be alive in this place of conservation and preservation, this was the first key stepping stone. Lenny Twist talks a lot about this, not only the chi of money and the soul of money, but she talks about the committed life of service. When we realize that moment, well, there is something greater than ourselves, we can serve that in a greater way to bring in abundance, money, joy, all the things we want. So we cultivate this in our life. So the piece of the purpose tripping point became the passion into conservation and preservation. And what I found, Shamani, at that time was that there was a great need in humanity, a vitally important need. And I was listening in Vision Quest and traveling and speaking with well-known folks that many of you that around the planet to discuss what is that. And that led to the next place of passion, because the conservation and restoration and preservation of humanity was what I heard the calling to be. The CPR, the conservation, preservation, and respiration and preservation of humanity. This is what we were called to do. So I rose into the next part of my life, which is the purpose, which is now the mission, and is to serve the greater good, the greater health and wellness. And that's what I do today with my shamanic work, my entrepreneurial work, my writing work, and speaking work. Yes, it's exciting times in many ways. Can't hear you, Shamani.
Oh, sorry, muted. A lot of comments being shared on views on, capitalism, ownership of land, colonialism, of course, because, and Adam, this is a really open discussion, right? It's an open discussion. Everyone has viewpoints on that. All viewpoints are welcome. All viewpoints are shared. All
Absolutely.
viewpoints are valuable. There are some perspectives that capitalism and colonialism have gone hand in hand, and with respect to land stewardship, the taking of land and the owning of land, which was never part of the indigenous peoples of this, of this particular land in the United States, what we call the United States that we're standing on, Turtle Island, right? There was no concept of owning land. And so, that's an interesting thing, because we could, there are a lot of places we could go with this, and we don't need to go to all the places, but it's worth noting that a lot of people's perceptions of capitalism have to do with this whole idea of owning land. And, one of the things that I'm curious about how you feel is reparations. There's stewardship, there's conservation, and then there's actually giving back the land to the indigenous peoples from where the land was stolen. And, where do you stand on that? What have you experienced in the work that you've done in those ways?
Well, I understand that, and I relate to it, especially having spent time with some of our First Peoples in their homeland and their place, and listened and tuned in as well as connecting with the Mother Earth. And yes, capitalism has its corruption, so to speak. It's a corruption of those that practice it in terms of absconding and taking, and also pillaging and poking and drilling and doing all the things that happen in the capitalistic world. And the return to old ways is a way, I think, that is quite revisionist. And the invitation, I think, is the evolution of how we all return to stewarding the land. And, I don't think of anything in terms of ownership in my own personal life. It's all about stewardship. I work with capitalists, conscious capitalists, it's all about not what you own, it's what you're stewarding. So the stewardship invites all people to participate in the evolution of this idea of stakeholdership. And as it's particular to our First Peoples, I'm not in a place to really answer that question because I am not one of those first people. I have tremendous empathy and understanding around that. But ultimately, we must find a way together to move forward. And that means evolving and reimagining even our ideas of ownership and land, to evolving them to stewardship. And we are the ones that are here to do that for our children and their children.
Yes, and it's the most critical time, right? That we all of us come together as a human family to steward those lands. Personally, I do feel like reparations are an important part of that process, but I understand and appreciate your point of view on that too, that you're not a First Nations person, you're not sure if it's for you to say. Well, let's switch gears for a moment because one of the books that you've written is called Divine Genius.
Hmm.
And it's really about being informed by the greater wholeness of what we're connected to inform our next actions like stewardship, right? And you feel that everyone can really be in contact with divine genius at any moment. This is a really important area for us to explore now as human beings. A lot of talk about we need to evolve as humans. As you say, we need to evolve even from the idea of ownership to stewardship, right? What role does divine genius play in that? How do you define divine genius?
Well, thank you for that. And this really is the question points right to my next book, which will be coming out in November, called Evolutionary Miracle: How Science and Shamanism Can Help Us to Navigate an Uncertain Future with Certainty. And the divine genius essentially is what is at the core of our being. It's the indelible light, the soul's light, that is in the oneness of the greater divinity of who we are, and are interconnected in both body, heart, mind, soul, and spirit. And one of the things that I've been focused on in particular, Shamani, and I'll keep it as brief as possible, but I go much more into it in the book, is this evolutionary continuum. What is the journey that we take to come into that place, that indelible place of our own divinity, our own place of our own divine genius? We often speak of God or greater being or Wantanka or whatever it may be, but where within our own life experience can we tap into this chi, this life force that is our own genius? And I explored this in really two ways. And if you don't mind, I'll just share those as quickly as
Please, that'd be
possible.
great. Yeah.
And I refer to these two ways as bridging and mirroring. So that the bridging is our evolutionary journey through our points in time and our time-space reality, where we move from our physical and biological nature through our spiritual, psychospiritual nature into, let's just say for now, our divine genius nature, our God nature. And where mirroring our evolutionary journey is what lies beyond time and space. Let me just say that one more time. Bridging our evolutionary journey through points in time, and mirroring our journey, our evolutionary journey, beyond points in time. Now, that's a very shamanic kind of view again, and I'd be I'll just let me drill down a little bit more
Yeah,
on,
please. No,
let me just,
that's
let me drill down,
fascinating.
because ultimately this is our, what I referred to in the coming book is the evolutionary continuum. And in a moment, we're going to have a little fun on a little shamanic journey we're going to take together, a little mini quest here to some of these discoveries. But in the bridging, the journey where we bridge in the healing fields and some of the great work that you're doing at Chi and Shamani, in that journey, healing is often done at the level of effect. It's generally done at the level of effects. And this work is very transformative. What are we letting go? What are we holding on to? What are we being birthed into? All of these kind of things. And our healing modality bridges us into the deeper place within our own psycho-spiritual nature.
Hmm.
So it's a very powerful journey and an important journey, but in the biofield, it is in the duality of our life. And I kind of affectionately refer to this, hang with me for a second. I call it the outer river, the outer river, this outer river. And it's that energy that's moving along like a river from our biofield into our deeper connection, into our healing state, into our psycho-spiritual state. Now, this compared to the mirroring of our journey. So we have the bridging of our journey through transformation, and then we kind of have the mirroring of our journey. And this to me is the ultimate quest that I very much am playing with and engaging with in my own personal life as well as others. And that journey, Shamani and everyone, takes us from our soul being, our place of our soul, and then that is a connection into the quantum field, where we are now tapping into this greater interstellar relationship we have with the divinity of the world and the divinity of ourselves. And essentially, that's the journey where we begin the bridge. And then we are allowed to come into a place of our attunement where we mirror the river. In other words, the mirror piece sits just below the river within the river. That makes sense. The river within the river. And then we have the river. So they begin to mirror each other, because in shamanism, what we say, our hypothesis is the outside science, the hard observable data is a reflection of our inward soft data of experience, knowledge, and wisdom.
Hmm.
In other words, we want to tap into the source of the challenges we face. We want to tap deeply within ourselves, so that becomes our knowledge and our wisdom, and how we can, as healers, and how we can heal ourselves individually and collective, how we can bring that forward. So the bridge and the mirror are wonderful places to explore this evolutionary continuum, this conscious evolutionary continuum that we're on. And I'll just share one last thought there. And that place, that inner connectivity, that deep inner well of our being, our soul being, in its expression mirroring into our lives, is that place of our divinity. And I really love what Greg Braden said around this. And he said that our divinity is our ability to transcend our perceived limitations. Our divinity is our ability to transcend our perceived limitations. So when we move into that deeper place, then we gain the ability to transcend that perceptual limitation that we've had about our lives. So hopefully that made a little bit of sense, and can go a
That's
lot
beautiful.
deeper
No,
with that.
beautiful framework. I love it. There are many ways to explain this, and I loved your framing of it. I thought it was really neat. And it reminds me, I don't know, Adam, and please correct me if I'm off base, in sort of the analogies, but it's tapping into the non-dual to observe the dual and understand that by tapping into the non-dual, the dual also shifts. There are many ways. There's so many frameworks for this that are just fascinating, including those related to the subtle bodies, right? And in our traditions, there is the understanding of the different layers of the subtle body, and that consciousness is the fundamental that's driving everything. But if our waking consciousness is in the conditioning and in the dual, so to speak, and as you say, the psychophysical reality, then that's where we live. And that's perfectly fine. We live our lives. This is where, as Carl Jung used to say, until you make the unconscious conscious, you will call it fate. You will say that everything is driven by fate. There's more to that saying, but I'm forgetting it at the moment. And then there's this opportunity, as you say, to make the unconscious conscious by diving into what we call the unconscious, the collective unconscious, whatever you want to call it, the non-dual, the all, the field of possibilities, right? And honestly, just be there so that there's not so much movement happening, but really just being in there and allowing what is meant to be informed to be informed. And, from our traditions, what happens when we do that is that we slow the sensations of the mind. We allow ourselves to liberate ourselves from karmic patterns that impede the field, and so the reality shifts. I'm just wondering if I'm on base here with what you're talking about with the river behind the river.
Well, you're right on track with that. And one of the things I've been doing a deep dive into and hacking a little bit more is how the quantum field, how the quantum phenomenon in general, guide us on this river. How do we navigate that river? And you were just framing this beautifully, but and briefly here, because I know we want to get into a little bit of a journey work together. But it takes us through that duality, like you positioned very nicely, and then we get to entangle ourselves a bit in this exciting, playground if we choose. So we just may, oh my God, heck no, this is scary. I'm just going to go back, into the woods, as Campbell would say. And then ultimately we jump into this unknown world. We say, just got to do it. Let's step in here in my healing and my pain in my life. And I want to do something better in my life. I'm just going to jump into it. And then boom, we get into that place where that subtle shift becomes a big shift.
Okay,
And
wonderful.
in the shamanic tradition, this is what we call, really rewiring and reconfiguring and really repersonalizing our life's histories. And this is where the shaman works at that deepest level, which takes us into this idea of superposition or unity, a place of our oneness with that. And that's the source of our connection field that we can choose into. I'm practicing and having fun with it in my life and exploring it all and realizing at 63, well, I just really don't know much at all. I might as well have a heck of a good time at it.
Well, and speaking of a good time, and I just want to remind everyone, if you have a question, may miss it in the chat. There's a Q&A box for those of you who are joining us in Zoom that you can jump into. It's on the bottom of your screen. Please type in your question for Adam, because we will have a few minutes, maybe even 15, to go through questions. I know a couple of you have put in questions. Any questions you have, please put them in the chat. But the Q&A box. I did see a question in the chat, though, which is relevant, I think, to where we want to go next, which is, okay, Adam, pardon me for being elementary here, but how do you tap in? And, this person shares, meditation, what is, in your view, what does meditation have to do with it? Can you help us understand this now on an experiential level?
Let's do it. I think there's no better moment than to just drop in and tap in the best we can. And so what I'd like to do is I want to invite you all to first of all, I'm going to need a piece of paper as well. So let's get a piece of paper out. And this, I want to pay homage and gratitude to Angeles Arias that inspired this work, the legendary socio-anthropologist who did steep work around our first peoples, around universal symbols and whatnot. So we're going to explore some symbols today and take a journey to see what they mean for you. What is it going to reveal to you as you tap into this nonlinear field within ourselves? So the first thing that we want to do here is on your piece of paper, I want you to draw these 5 symbols. First is a square. Second is a triangle. Third is a double helix, like the Medusa, see on the that a doctor wears. Fourth is the equidistant cross, And lastly is the circle. Okay, so hopefully you've got that together. And so let's just kind of all get comfortable. We're going to take a little bit of a journey before we head into the next leg of tapping in. So let's close our eyes and just take a few deep breaths. Imagine yourself walking down a path. Come to a big, beautiful, open meadow. Look around. There's some birds or bees or whatever you see. Just take it in for a moment. Now look up and you can see that the path leads to a trail up onto a mountain. Follow the trail up to the mountain. Getting close to the top, and you arrive top of the mountain. There you can stand and look all around, way out to the horizon. And you see fields of corn, endless, rolling on and on, green, yellow. Now imagine you're an eagle. You're going to take flight. You're going to lift your wings. Now you're ready to jump and fly. As you fly over the fields, look down. You will see an outcropping. And in that outcropping is a square. You see the square. Fly around the square now. Now lift your wings a little further. Fly around further down the cornfield. You see the triangle. See the triangle. Does that remind you of a sacred trinity? Look around. What does that remind you of in the Holy Trinity or whatever that means to you? Let's fly further. And we see the double helix wandering through the cornfield. Take a look at that. Does that resonate with you in any way? Yeah. Let's continue our flight over the corn grove. Those fields are bright and shiny. And now we come to an equidistant cross. How does that feel to you? What does it represent in your life? And now we lift ourselves high again. And we see one last circle in the green meadow of the field. Note the circle. Fly around it a couple times. Now we lift our wings and we fly back up to the mountain where we begin. We land there and we make our way back down the trail, back through the meadow, and back into the room where you are now. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. So in the next minute, I want to invite you to put a number 1 through 5 next to each of those symbols. Put a number next to each of those in order that you feel them. All right, hopefully you're getting there and numbering those 1 through 5. So next to the square, I want you to put the words stability and security. Stability and security. Next to the triangle, please put goals and dreams. Goals and dreams. Next to the double helix, put growth and evolution. Next to the equidistant cross, put relationships. And lastly, next to the circle, put wholeness and completion. Okay? Now I'm going to read a paragraph and I'd like you to fill in the blanks. Okay? Right now, I am focused on 1. So whatever it says on your first choice, if it was a triangle, for example, you would put, I am focused on goals and dreams. Okay? My inherent strength or strengths is 2. So if 2 is the helix, you would put growth and evolution. Continuing. Right now, I'm working on 3 blank. You can put whatever that is. I'm just going to repeat that last sentence. Right now, I'm working on blank at the very core of my being. And lastly, I am motivated. I am inspired to change because I want to be blank. Number 4. In order to find blank. Number 3. Let me repeat that. I am motivated. I am inspired to change because I want to be blank. 4. In order to find blank. 3. In order to tap into my divine genius, I need to be or have 5. In order to discover my divine genius, I need to have or to be number 5. I invite you all to take that home with you or wherever you go and explore that and see what it means for your own personal journey into that river within the rivers and
Mm.
into the
Yeah, and please, everyone,
community.
thank you, Adam, for that really wonderful practice. And anyone who has a question or if you want to just sort of share what that experience was like for you, please feel free to throw it in. We are getting a couple of folks that are saying they got a little bit lost in the directions at the end. Will you get a recording? Yes, you will. We will be giving a recording to everyone who is registered. That is free for the next 48 hours. And then for those of you who choose to be in reciprocity with Chi and help support these beautiful webinars, you'll have the recording in perpetuity for your gracious donation to the nonprofit of 108 per year. But if you registered for this, you will receive the replay link that is good for the next 48 hours regardless. A lot of wonderful comments here. Wow, I felt it deeply. That was very accurate for me. Ego Condor flew with me. Triangle represented the rescuer, victim, and perpetrator. Yes, maybe you have studied with our dear friend Tiffany Barsotti. I always think of her when we talk about that drama triangle. Um, and Jason, thank you for putting the link in the chat. I want to remind everyone, and I'm so heartened. We've just been doing some analytics on our webinars, and it's so heartening to know that literally, thousands of you are registering for these events, and many of you are joining live from all over the world. And I know that several of you that are coming in to join are contributors already. And we want to thank you so much for your support, because honestly, without the support and reciprocity of this community, Chi cannot exist. And it's really because of your generosity of spirit, of understanding that there is give and take in healing and in sharing the science and practice of healing, that we deeply, deeply appreciate your support. If you have not joined as a Qi contributor yet, I invite you to do so, especially now as we build for the future of Qi. We're very, very excited about our future directions here. And as I mentioned, an instant gratification that you will receive by becoming a Qi contributor for $9 a month or 108 donation, tax-deductible donation a year is that you will receive this recording as well as, gosh, it was 60 plus recordings already. I think we have maybe more at this point. I don't know, 60, 90. I don't know. We've been doing it for a long time. Such
Yay.
leading lights in the field, Adam, obviously, Deepak Chopra, Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, Donna Eden, Sue Morter's coming next month, y'all. All of these people donate their time. All of our beautiful speakers donate their time and heart to these webinars to share wisdom with the community. But of course, we have a staff that really helps to put this together, and we have costs associated with putting these webinars together. So when you support us, we're able to support you as Qi contributors with a bank of content, free monthly meditations, and key studies and happenings that are happening in the consciousness and healing world. So really, I would love for you to consider becoming a Qi contributor. If you've been coming to these webinars every month, you've been enjoying the content, you've been enjoying the discussions, please support this beautiful nonprofit in continuing to provide you with those resources. This is not capitalism per se. We are a social profit. We are here for the greater good. We are here for the social good. And because we do rely on the flows of money to keep the doors open, your donations and your generosity is what helps keep this going. So again, thank you. Jason's going to put the link in the chat one more time for those of you who want to learn more about how to become a Qi contributor and all the things that you will receive for doing that. In the meantime, I'm going to just go to our question answer. We have a few questions here for you, Adam, and everyone, fair game. Feel free to throw in a question. Okay, we've got several here. So let's see how we can proceed. Here, we'll start with the easy ones first. How about that, Adam?
Any order you like.
All right. The first, I know you'll know the answer to this off the back of your head. What is the title of your upcoming book?
Yes, it's an evolutionary miracle how science and shamanism can help us navigate an uncertain future with certainty.
Great. And a lot of questions about other books and things like that. So let's just get to this point. You've been so generous in sharing your time with us this hour. Many people that are going to want to learn more from you, learn about all the books you have and the teachings you have. Where do they go to get that information?
Well, the best to go is just go to adamchall.com. And I invite you to explore that site, be it the books or any of the master classes I offer for free, or any offerings I have there. You can get those. You can also get my Earthkeeper, the Earthkeeper, Undeveloping the Future. You can get that for free there. Just put your name in, and we'll send it to you. But one of the things I want to invite you to do when you go to the website is we have launched a new interactive technology called Soul Guide. And it's a search function that becomes very experiential for the visitor. And you can ask your question there. You can speak into your challenge or things that are really that you want to happen. You can get your answer right there from my library of content. I'll share with you a live, perhaps a video version of an answer for you, and then offer you where you can go to explore more. So have fun with that interactive component and enjoy it. And of course, always love to hear from any of you. You can feel free to reach out to me anytime. Just hit that connect button and we'll be in touch.
That's so great. Yeah, thank you. We usually do that right at the end, but since there's so many questions about where do we find you, where do we find your resources, I thought we could just go ahead and come to that right away.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I got to say, you guys, Soul Guide is a lot of fun. You should definitely check it out. I really enjoyed playing with it. Okay, Donna asks, are you defining consciousness as our connection to the divine?
Yeah, yes, and I look at our consciousness as a greater field of our greater potential and possibilities. So it's an expansive continuum. It's an infinite continuum where all things are connected. So I don't want to put it in a box in any way. I'm experiencing it from a perceptual lens. And in the shaman's perceptual lens is all things are connected in a field of unlimited and of unlimited consciousness and expansion. So I would answer it that way, but ultimately our relationship with this field is a divine relationship, and it invites the divinity of who we are to come into what we call in the shamanic traditions, Aini, come into sacred relationship, sacred reciprocity with this field of this expansive, infinite consciousness that we can enjoy and explore in our lives. It's a bit of a playground for me, so I hope I shared that fairly cogently and clearly.
Beautiful. Okay, now here's a question kind of tying back to the earlier part of the conversation. Big question.
Okay.
Um, this is from one of our attendees here who asks, how to help shift the corporate culture in Silicon Valley that has such an emphasis on profit, where employees are given dehumanizing workloads and environment, but due to high cost of living, feel pressured to keep up. Many see this pace as normal, and there's little group pushback, and some are dying of heart attacks. In developing countries, it's even worse, with 12 to 15-hour days, inhumane labor practices with no breaks and very low pay. The system needs to change. So I think this person is saying the system needs to change. How are we going to change it?
Yeah, no, very, very powerful question, especially with the rise in the next, industrial revolution as a technological revolution, and the power that technology has, and really how technology views their workers. And let's keep in mind, let's see things for how they are, not for how we want them to be. And it's very sobering. Technology is a very hard-driven, masculine orientation. And the ability for it to really tap into more a compassion and empathic it's there, but it has its real limitation. Let's be real about that, folks. So shamanically, we always speak to shifting our perspective. And our shifting that perspective is where within your own self can you find the joy? Can you find the passion to be in that place of work? If you're in that work, of course, but a lot of us find this in many other workspaces. So if not,
Exactly. Yeah.
if not, it means it's time to shift away, and the journey is inviting you to take you to your greater heart or your soul's calling. It doesn't mean to surrender your monetary needs or your personal needs. We're already doing that in that space. It means to take that as our truth, and we are looking for our truth and our passion through our own well-being, be it financial or health. So that's the kind of place that I'd invite. Switch the lens, see how it looks from different perspectives, have that communication. And if that just goes nowhere, then that's a powerful invitation to take flight into your dreams, like the eagle did on that rock.
And beautiful. And maybe as our closing question here, on that note, Maria asks a very potent question, which is, how can we dream an end to suffering?
Beautiful, 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 beautiful dream. And one of the things that just really lands on me so much is the suffering and pain, particularly of our children, but for all, and to see what's going on there. And I asked this myself, how do we dream a new dream? How do we dream the indelible divinity of our children and their God-given light to fully express itself in a planet that's safe, healthy, and whole? There are many on this planet that are dreaming this dream. They live in the Himalayas and they live in other places in the jungle, and they're holding us in that capacity. And for me, to shift away from that deeply painful place within my own life, a journey in pain and suffering, to shift into that new dream meant taking the journey, not to save others or to save my planet, but really to come into that place of my own salvation, so to speak, and to really embrace that and really say, this is the dream. This is the light that I know that guides me from within, that in the morning I wake up to the night when I close my eyes, that is the dream that I will hold, and I will hold myself accountable, and I will show up to live this in all my relations, to live in Aini with this, and to do what our first people have long done. They've represented that the greatest force in the earth is not just the love way, it's the beauty way. And the beauty way is the fifth way. We have the other forces, the heavy and light nuclear force, the gravitational force, and so on. Let's walk the beauty way together. Let's take it upon ourselves to see that within ourselves in all our relationship, be it the plant people, the animal people, the stone people, the little crawlers, all of them in our connection place, because that's the way to a new dream beyond pain, or at least a way to a new dream beyond pain.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, Adam. Thank you. Such a beautiful close to our time together today. And I want to thank you for your generosity of time and spirit to share some wisdom as you have traversed the ways of healing and journeying to a new collective future, perhaps. And I want to thank everyone who has joined us for this beautiful hour. May you be well. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you spread light to yourself and others. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Take good care, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.